I'm going to be talking about how to create panoramic images. First, you have to know how to shoot for them. I typically shoot with a 35mm to a 50mm for my panoramas. First thing, I lock in my focus, so I'll get the focus set and then just make sure that my autofocus is turned off so that it doesn't move. And then you have to kind of envision what you want the panorama to be, whether you want it to be horizontal or vertical. So for a horizontal panorama, which is what I always do, I take 4 to 5 vertical images. So I'll start at the left and then move my way right, or vice versa. And I'm just basically making sure that I get every part of the scene in the next leading image. And when you do it with vertical panoramas, you take horizontal images, starting from the top going down or from the bottom going up. So here we have a ton of images, but they'll all together make 8 separate images. So I'm going to be going through and just showing you how to do it. So we'll hop in. So what I do is I'll take the photos and I will select them all, and then I'll control click and do photo merge. So you can do panorama or HDR panorama. I only ever do panorama because HDR is not really my thing. So there are a few different settings in here, and it's a little bit slow just because it's like stitching all the images together and trying to read the information. So there's a few different settings in here. Spherical, cylindrical, and perspective are the different ways that it's going to warp the image. And so sometimes, like if the panorama comes up and I'm not really sure about like the distortion, or it just looks a little bit funky or off to me, I'll go through these different options and just see which one's gonna work best. And you can usually obviously see which one's gonna be the best and the worst. And I feel like there's no like consistent thing that I use. I probably use perspective the most just because it's the most normal looking one. But yeah, I just kind of like go through those, make sure that like the one I'm choosing looks the best. Down here there's auto crop and auto settings. So I like to have auto crop turned on, and that way you're not having to go back out and crop it. I've never had an issue with this cropping anything funky. You can turn auto settings on if you'd like. It just basically is trying to match like exposures and highlights and whites and things like that across the entire image. For me, this isn't necessary really, like it's not really doing anything here that looks good, because I took all these images within the same like 3 seconds. So I'm just going to turn that off. You can also create a stack, which I never do. So I always just have my auto crop on and go through these guys. And then you hit merge and it will start adding it to a task, and it will keep these images separated and then create a new panoramic image for you in your library down here. But you can go on and keep working. So this is the image it came up with it's out of all of these image. And it looks awesome. So it's pretty cool. Go to the next one. I like to usually have at least 4 to 5 images to pull from so I can combine it. You can do it with, 2 images, 3 images, but I feel like I have the best results when I take more. And if you take too many, it will try making like a really, really long image, which is really cool for like landscape, but not always vertical. So I just kind of try and pay attention to that and just kind of mess around with it and experiment with it. But I usually have the best luck with at least 4 to 5 images. And here's the image we got from it. It's so freaking cool. And this is like a scenario where it was really hard for me to get like the full effect of this incredible waterfall and how big it was. I would shoot it vertically and I could fit like, the entire waterfall and him in it, but it just didn't show how big it was. It kind of made it look like warped and things like that. So I wanted to do a panoramic to show how big this scene actually was, because I couldn't get further back than I already was. All right, so this one is only 3 images, and I didn't take these very well. They're kind of crooked, and I actually don't think I took them in a row. I think I took this image on its own, and then took a few more images, and then took these two. So it's kind of messy, but I'll show you how you can still make it work. Or sometimes it just doesn't and it's a bummer, but you can usually kind of move things around and choose different settings to make them work. So this one totally worked. I'll just go through the different options so you can see it probably might go a little crazy with some of them. Maybe not. You just never really know what you're gonna get. So actually all these look really good. I think I like this one the best. I'm just gonna merge those. The less images you're using, the faster your Lightroom will work as well, because it has less images to put together. And here is that image. Awesome. All right, this one is a really long panoramic image. These are also a little bit messed up in the timeline of like kind of how I took them. So I'm going to see what happens. Cool, so these images created this image. And sometimes I'll go in if I feel like the image is actually a little too long and I'll crop things out, but I love really long panoramics, and so I usually end up keeping them like nice and long. Ew, dirty. Okay, everything is always a sexual reference. All right, so this is an example of where it's just like, what the heck is going on? The program doesn't know what to do with it. And so we'll go through the other options. Nice. All right, so we're gonna use perspective. This boundary warp, also you can just kind of go in and change it up. When you're shooting with people, it's kind of tricky because you don't want to distort their bodies or anything like that. And you want to be able to retain how it actually looked. So I'm just gonna go ahead and do this, and then we might do a little bit of cropping to make sure it looks somewhat normal. So this is what we got out of it, and it's really too tall. It's not really necessary, so I'm just going to go ahead and crop it down. And there we go. This one is a really, really long one, made up of a lot of images. I think this one's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. It's a lot. So it's gonna be pretty big. I think that one's actually really good. I might just check a couple other options. Yeah, do cylindrical. And here's that panorama. So this one is super, super long. It's so pretty. This is in Peru at like 4 in the morning. So crazy. All right, another one with people in it. And here's that one. This one turned out a little bit more warped than I would hope, which sometimes happens. So I can go back in and just reset it. So I'm gonna redo this one because I just didn't love how it turned out. Here's how that one turned out. When you're cropping them, you gotta be careful because there are these little white edges and things like that. So you just wanna make sure that you're cropping them out. So like right here, I'm gonna pull that in, make sure I'm not grabbing any of that pure white. Awesome. Last one. This one was at a ceremony, so it can be easy to kind of warp these. I like to try and always get one at every ceremony I shoot, especially when it looks this amazing. And there's the final one. Cool. So that's how you make super duper easy panoramics in Lightroom. Thanks for watching.